Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence.
On this episode, Debbie Melamed interviews Dr. Bruce H. Lipton on his groundbreaking research in the field of epigenetics.
Today we are speaking with Dr. Bruce Lipton about his groundbreaking research in the field of epigenetics, the science of how our thoughts and perceptions affect our genetic expression and our health. Dr. Bruce Lipton, Ph.D. cell biologist and lecturer, is an internationally recognized leader in the new biology and bridging science and spirit. He is best-selling author of The Biology of Belief and recipient of the 2009 GOE Peace Award. He has been a guest speaker on hundreds of TV and radio shows, as well as keynote speaker at national and international conferences. His research in cell biology and quantum physics is being hailed as a major breakthrough, showing that our bodies can be changed as we retrain our thinking. We will discuss with Dr. Lipton how we are in control of our own biology and not a victim of our heredity, as illnesses are not programs in our genes. Rather, they are responses to the way we perceive our environment based on our programming. You can find more information on Dr. Bruce Lipton's work and his books at www.brucelipton.com. Welcome, Dr. Lipton. I am profoundly excited to speak with you today.
Debbie, I am so excited to speak with you because I understand that between you and I, we have some very wonderful things to offer the community, especially about their ability to empower themselves and take charge of their lives and not be victims of what they believe to be the genes.
Yes, especially with the fear of cancer.
Well, fear is what we're going to talk about at some point, because if you want to say, where does 90% or more illness come from, and that's every level of illness, 90% of it really starts with the fear part, because we now know, and this is a very important fact, less than 1% of disease is based on genetics.
Yes. But that's not what everyone has been taught to know.
No. And this is, and listen, when I was teaching in the medical school a long time ago, while I was doing the experiments that revealed this different world, I was teaching what people in the general public have been programmed with, and that is the belief that the genes control the character of our lives. And the relevance about that is then you ask, well, did you pick the genes? And I go, well, not that we know of. And then you say, well, if you don't like the traits, can you change the genes? I go, no. And then the last part is, do you control the genes? Well, the conventional story that almost everyone has been programmed with is genes turn on and off, like, oh, genes make decisions. In a technical term, that's called self-actualization, which simply, defined as self-control. So that, how do genes work? They control themselves. And I go, well, then put all those things together. We didn't pick them. We can't change them. And they control themselves. And then all of a sudden you realize why people walk away with the perception that they are victims of their heredity. That if there's something running in a family lineage, they can anticipate that this will be in their future, because if it's in the lineage, the belief was that the genes are carrying that information. And since we don't have power over the genes, then we actually, become the victim of genes. And this is all a belief system. And I have to tell you the truth. Back in the days, and that was a long time ago when I was teaching medical students, that's what I was teaching. I say relevance to the audience is that the perception we all hold is, oh my God, I'm a victim of my heredity and I have no power over my life, and therefore I should anticipate and prepare for some very negative outcome, which apparently is running in the family.
And then fear ensues.
Oh, absolutely. And then, as we'll talk about, well, if you want to say, where did the problem start? I go, right there with the fear.
Okay. So then what actually is a gene?
Okay, and this is really clear. And people say, yeah, they understand. I say, a gene is a blueprint to make a product called a protein. And then, so let's put it in perspective. And I go, when you look at a body and it's made out of like these 50 trillion cells, and I say, yeah, but what are cells made out of? And I say, the building blocks of cells are called proteins. They give us our structure. And the genes are blueprints. We have over 100,000 different kinds of proteins. And each protein is unique and it has its own structure and its own function. So I have 100,000 different versions of proteins. I go, yeah, but proteins wear out and proteins have to be replaced. So the question is, where does the structure of proteins come from? What controls that? And that's when the study led to the fact that DNA, in the DNA is a class of molecules, but pieces of DNA, segments of the DNA, are programs to make the proteins. And I say, okay, so they're blueprints to make a protein. I go, yes, and here's the critical fact, Debbie, and that is that let's say you go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint and you lean over her shoulder and you ask the architect, you say, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at you like, what, are you crazy? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. It's just a blueprint. And I go, precisely. This is the point. The DNA is a blueprint. It is no different functionally than a blueprint in an architect's office. And when I emphasize that, I emphasize very importantly, blueprints are not controlling their own activity. I mean, if they did, the way that we think genes control our activity, an architect would just have to drive by a building site, throw the blueprints into the yard, drive away, and then say, yeah, the blueprints are going to create the house. I go, well, obviously that's absurd. And I go, the genes are blueprints. To give them the value that they create this structure called life, that's absurd. And yet that's what we used to teach because that was the belief system. But that changed a long time ago, and the unfortunate part is, while science and scientists and those researchers in the field know that genes don't control life, the public is still walking around and being fed by the media. The genes control this, and the genes do this, and I go, wow, that's so not true. And the research reveals is completely false, that genes are in the end are controlled by the environment. And I go, okay, wait, what's the new story? Well, what was I teaching medical students a long time ago? It was called genetic control. The story of genetic control, which is also known as genetic determinism. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, simply, what does that mean? Genetic control simply translates as control by genes. I go, yeah, that's the old belief. My life is under genetic control. The new belief almost sounds exactly the same. So it's a little confusing because I say the new science is called epigenetics. And in regard to control, it's called epigenetic control. Okay? And so now I say, well, what's the relevance of that? And I go, epi means above. And all of a sudden I say, so what does epigenetic control, the new science, mean? And the answer is control above the genes. And now we have recognized that genes do not control themselves. They're controlled by the environment, signals from the environment. And then the last emphasis before we can really elaborate more is the cells in my body, which have to adjust themselves to base on what's going on in the world. I mean, if I'm running from a saber-toothed tiger or I'm sitting down enjoying a picnic and joy, these are two different behaviors. Then I got to say, well, what's controlling these behaviors? And I say, well, the environment. And then I say, yeah, but my cells, let's say my liver cell, has to adjust its behavior to the environment. And I say, but it can't. My liver cell can't see the environment's on the inside. So I say, well, how does the liver cell know what's going on in the environment? I go, oh, that's why the nervous system was created. The nervous system receives the signals from the environment through eyes, ears, nose, touch, taste, pain, temperature, pressure. These are outside signals that are picked up by the body's nervous system, and then the nervous system translates those signals so that the cells can adjust their behavior appropriately. So the point is simple. The environment is affecting the genetic activity, and then I need to add, this was the part that I was going to emphasize, but between the environment and the cells is the mind. The mind is doing an interpretation. And I go, why is that relevant? Because I can interpret an environmental signal correctly, or I can have a misperception and have an environmental signal that actually might be a good signal, and my perception, my belief is it's a bad signal. So my liver cell, in a good environment, but with a mind that says that signal is a negative signal, my liver cell doesn't see the good environment. It just sees what my mind said. So all of a sudden, I now back up, and the definition is this. Epigenetics is the science of how the environment, and then here's the added part, how the environment and our perception of the environment controls our genetics. And I say, okay, is this different than genetic control? And I say, yeah, genetic control, you're a victim. Why? You didn't pick the genes, you can't change the genes, you don't control the genes, and they control you. And now I say, new science, epigenetics, I go, oh my God, it's based on the environment and my perception environment. Guess what? I can change the environment, and I can change my perception of the environment, and therefore I have absolute control over my genetics. I'm a master of my heredity, not a victim. And there's no greater separation than slave and master in this regard, because either the genes are controlling you or you're controlling the genes. The latter is what comes out. And it says then we, by definition, are profoundly powerful in controlling our genetics and the fate that we have.
So I'm curious, can two people interpret a stressful situation in different ways, whereas one person sees it as minor stress and another person is gravely affected and then sends different hormones and neurotransmitters being released that affect health much more profoundly?
Yeah, here's a simple little look. We get our beliefs and programming primarily in the first 7 years of life. There's a period where a child's brain is not in consciousness. Actually, the neurological function of creative consciousness doesn't really manifest in a child's brain as a predominant activity until age 7. I said, well, what was happening before age 7? I go, the brain was in a lower vibrational frequency called theta. Mm-hmm. Theta is imagination, and that's why children under 7 operating in theta, imagination function of the brain, can ride a broom, and the mother says, give me the broom back, and the child looks at the mother like, I don't know what you're talking about, this is a horse. Because when the child is riding it, no longer is it a broom as we see it. To the child in theta, that broom is actually a horse. And I go, well, yeah, that's what theta, the character as it's expressed in children. I go, and there's another character which people haven't talked about, and that is theta is hypnosis. And the significance of hypnosis is, just if I had to write a book and just say, let's list all the rules and characters necessary for an individual to learn to become a member of a family and a member of a community, all the things you have to do right and wrong, the rules and the habits. I say, if you had a book of those rules, it'd be a pretty thick book of how to behave. I go, yeah, but a child has to learn these rules. It can't wait till college and then now I can read. I'll read the book. So nature designed the first 7 years to acquire behavior, not consciously, but subconsciously through hypnosis, theta. And then this is how a child can learn how to become a member of a family and community, because they observe others, and then the observations of others become programs in our own subconscious. And you're going, okay, what does all of this come down to? And I go, the subconscious mind it's a habit mind. It's got all the programs. Look, when did you learn how to walk? Okay, before 2. I say, ever since then, did you have to relearn how to walk? I go, no, it's a habit. It's in the subconscious. I go, oh, so the programs that go in the subconscious are really cool because that means we don't have to relearn them every day. If you learned how to walk before you were 2, you've been walking ever since without having to relearn it again. So habits are really good. And the habits in the beginning are, what are the rules for an individual to employ to become this functional member of a family and community? What do we learn about ourselves in that first 7 years? And one of the things that we learn, unfortunately, is when it comes to health, what does the child learn? Now, this is not the creative part of a child's consciousness. This is just the subconscious program behavior. Just push the button and play it. I say, what do we know about health as an infant? And I go, what we know is that when somebody's sick, they go to the doctor. Mommy's sick, she has to go to the doctor. I'm sick, I got to go to the doctor. And I say, okay, this is a fundamental program. It's downloaded during the first 7 years. And I say, what is the meaning of it? It really comes down to the meaning. It says, how do I, as a human being, how do I deal with sickness? And the answer is, oh, I go to the doctor. It's like, oh, okay, so I don't heal myself, but if I go to the doctor, that's where I can get healing. And there's a little joke on this side of this, and there's this. It's like, most of the time, nobody said what the doctor had to do. To get healing, you just go to the doctor.
Right. You start feeling better as soon as you get there.
Exactly. On the way, sitting in the doctor's office, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, I don't feel so bad all of a sudden. And it's like, because you were able to heal yourself naturally, biologically. This is the history of humans. Look, medical schools are only, in the last couple of 100 years, and humans have been around here for 100,000 years. How do people heal themselves before medical doctors? And the answer is they heal themselves. And then I said, then what? We got a belief that said healing is the result of the doctor, and all of a sudden our natural ability to heal is now put on hold until we accomplish the new belief, and that is, I'll be able to heal as soon as I go to the doctor. And that's where with the humor part that you brought up comes in. It's like, wow, I didn't have to do anything with the doctor. I just had to go. And I go, yeah, because you were able to heal in the first place until you were the one that put a program, actually you, but the community and your family put a program in that said no healing until the doctor. And that's what holds up our healing a lot. So the programming in that first 7 years really determines how we're going to exercise our lives, okay? So I say in the first part of that 7 years are beliefs about how to deal with life. Now I say, so are these beliefs good? And I thought, well, yeah, basically, because without them, civilization would fall apart. Everybody would be doing anything they wanted to do. But there seems to be an agreement and a harmony of how we behave. And a child learns that hypnotically in the first 7 years. So the behavior of a child is primarily programmed by observing the behavior of other people, such as the parents. Now, when this comes to cancer, this is major, and here's what's major. They follow the fate of children adopted into families where there's cancer running in the family. Mm-hmm. Our old belief is that the cancer is due to the genetics passed from parent to child. And I go, but here's the story. When they studied the fate of adopted children, they found that the adopted child will express the same behavior as the natural siblings and will end up with the same cancer that is running in the family. And then you have to stop and go, yeah, but the child came from different genetics. And all of a sudden it's like, uh-huh. Well, then it wasn't.
So it's beyond the food that they were eating and the habits. It's more the beliefs and, okay. That's very interesting.
Science is now, there's an establishment in medical science that's established that the issues we face as adults, cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, all these things, did not start in the adult age. They were seeded in the perinatal and infant stages of our lives. So science is beginning to recognize the things that set us off on the wrong course did not happen just before a cancer showed up or diabetes showed up. They were seeded into our consciousness generally in the very early ages before age 7. And this becomes very important because it says, oh, well then the cancer isn't due to the genes. And I go, fact. As far as we know right now, less than 10% of cancer has anything to do with the genes. That 90% of cancer is adapting to beliefs and programs that are not in harmony with your survival and your health. Like the child being adopted into the family is programmed with the stressors that are present in that family, and those particular stressors are the stresses that lead to a particular cancer. So if a child learns behavior that results in those stresses, then the result is that child will get that cancer. Did the genes get involved? No. The genes,
they don't turn on and off.
No, the genes had nothing to do turn on and off, because genes are controlled by the environment and the perception of the individual.
Okay.
And if the perception is skewed in an unhealthy perception, then by definition, if an unhealthy perception is selecting genetic activity, it's most likely going to create a very unhealthy genetic activity to match the perception.
So there's something in the environment that's not supporting health.
Yeah, it's stress. And stress is, you say, well, what's stress? So let's simplify the nature of stress, because there's so many different versions of what stress is. Stress, and this is actually, let's use there's two terms, eustress and distress. Eustress is good stress. You go, there's something called good stress? And I go, yeah. I say, if you go out and play sports, let's say you're stressing your physiology, you're pushing on your system, you're asking your muscles to do more, your coordination to do better, you're pushing and making it, you're stressing your system. I go, in response to that kind of stress, the body builds up and gets stronger. So I say, oh, well, playing sports is a stress, but the result is the body is built better as a result of that. So it's good stress. But distress, and this is the one I want to emphasize, is anything, and this is a broad statement and it catches a lot, distress is anything that gets in the way of your destination. Whatever you see as you're looking for, this is what I want, this is where I want to go, and then I say very simply, well, anything that prevents you from obtaining that future, anything that gets in the way will provoke stress. So all of a sudden you see, oh, wow, it could be quite a lot of things that get in the way, but they all result in stress. And stress will precipitate all the illnesses except for that 1% that are due to genetics. And that's why the issue is not cancer genes, it's cancer stress. And as you brought up before we got in the conversation, Debbie, is that, well, look, the BRCA1 gene is presumed to be the cancer gene. I'm going to go first. We have to correct this as a very lousy definition, cancer gene, for a simple reason. There is no gene that causes cancer. That's a fact. I say, what do you mean? I say, you show me a gene that if a person possesses that gene, they automatically get cancer. And I say, we don't have any of those. I say, even the BRCA1 gene is the cancer gene. They call it. And I go, yeah, but if it's a cancer gene, recognize that 50% of the women that carry that gene never get the cancer. And the first thing you have to own is truth. It's not a cancer gene. Because if it was a cancer gene, having the gene, you'd get cancer. And if 50% of the women have the gene, they don't get the cancer, then there's only one absolute fact. That gene does not cause cancer. And that's a fact.
I think people just think they're unlucky.
Well, lucky or unlucky,
control.
It's not lucky or unlucky. There are mechanisms that cause cancer. So lucky or unlucky is, did the gene turn on or did the gene turn off? Well, that's the old belief, like roulette. Spin the wheel.
Victim status. You're in victim status then, and you have no control.
Right. And the fact is, there's absolute control in genetics. And except for the fact that people are not aware of it, they don't have the perception of it. And you go, so what do you mean they don't have perception of it? Well, the perception is, I don't control the genes. And I say, well, why is that important? Because then I say, if genes and genetic behavior is controlled by the environment and our perception, then what happens to the perception of a woman, let's say, when she goes into the doctor's office and gets a diagnosis that, oh, I'm sorry, you have the BRCA1 gene? I say, immediately, what is the perception of that woman? And the answer, you can tell me, Deb, because you're the woman and I'm not. What would a woman think the moment those words come out of the doctor's mouth?
It's fear that you're going to get cancer.
Right. So the vision held by that woman at that instant is not a vision of, I'm having a happy, wonderful, healthy, enjoyable life. The moment that picture comes into the head is a picture of what? Disease, pathology, sickness, and death. And I go, wow, let's go back and review what I just said about the new science called epigenetics. The environment and our perception change the genetics. Therefore, I say, what's the consequence of a woman having the perception that she's going to get cancer? And I go, oh, perception controls genes. That's all she needed, is to have that perception, and she will get a cancer. And the significance about that is she doesn't even have to have a cancer gene. She just has to have the belief that she had the cancer gene. And
this is really important because more and more people are getting their DNA tested now, and I don't think they know what to do with that information.
It's absolutely virtually useless. That is a fact. I'll tell you why. There's about a half a dozen diseases or so, such as hemophilia, for example, Tay-Sachs disease, cystic fibrosis. There are very few of them that are caused by a gene, meaning if you have the gene, then you're really in that destiny track to express that activity. So I say, oh, what if it's you look at your gene readout and it's not one of those genes? I go, oh, well, these are then suggestions of what might happen. But talking about those other genes, you can't say what's going to happen. I have a BRCA1 gene. Does that mean I'm going to get cancer? And I go, no. So I say, so you read that on my genetic chart. And then you say, Bruce, you could get cancer. And I go, well, truth, no, that gene doesn't cause cancer. But truth in most people is, I believe I'm going to get the cancer. And I go, oh, there you go. That's the first step right there.
Is there any benefit to getting the testing then? I mean, does it just cause fear?
Yep.
It really, you need to raise your consciousness, not change your habits.
That's what epigenetics is all about. If it's genetic control, no matter what you do, the gene will turn on and gene will turn off and give you whatever the cause is. Epigenetics, no gene turns on and off. It's only you and your consciousness and your environment that will determine whether that gene is going to be activated or not. And that's why 50% of the women that have the gene don't get the cancer. Why? Because whatever they're doing in their life does not promote cancer as compared to the other 50% that have the gene and express the cancer. I say, what's the difference? I say, one group that get the cancer, they're not living in harmony and they're living in stress. And the other group is completely not in that stress and is living a lifestyle that will preclude that cancer from ever occurring. And all of a sudden I said, well, then the cancer wasn't because the gene was there. I said, no, the cancer was the expression of the individual that possesses the gene.
And that was from the programming from before they were 7?
Yes.
Which is really someone else's beliefs, meaning your parents?
It's the way, let's say, your mother has the cancer and your grandmother has the cancer, and you go, oh my God, the genes are connected. I go, no, behavior is connected. Whatever program of behavior that was eliciting the cancer, if the grandmother had it, remember, the mother was programmed by the grandmother in that behavior in the first 7 years. So as she grows up, that behavior that she was programmed with ends up in the cancer. And I say, yeah, but if you were a child and your mother had that programming, then it's pretty damn good odds in your first 7 years you have been downloaded with the exact same program that will cause the cancer. So the idea is cancer is running in a family. And the old vision is, well, genes control cancer and genes activate on their own. So cancer is a genetic disease. It runs through a family because you pass the genes from parent to child. And I go, no, that belief is not true because cancer genes don't exist and genes don't turn on by themselves. Cancer is an expression of a lifestyle. If you change that lifestyle, you can change the consequence of a cancer. If you don't change the lifestyle and you inherit that lifestyle from your parents and they express the disease, then the lifestyle you inherited could cause the disease, but not the genes. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have power. And I go, yes. If the genes control, you're a victim, no power. Epigenetics, you are controlling your genes. And if no one ever told you about that, if you had no understanding about that, then guess what? You've lost your power. Knowledge is power. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And when it comes to genetics and cancer, almost everyone their program represents a lack of knowledge because they're operating off of beliefs that are not even true. And you say, well, you mean the beliefs can cause it? And then just one last step here before we go to the next piece. I go, people have heard of the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
I say, what's the placebo effect? I say, well, I have a disease. The doctor says, this is the greatest new medicine. This pill, it's even colored purple because that's better healing. This purple pill is the answer to everything. And I believe the doctor because that's what my program is. Doctor knows and I don't. Doctor says this is going to heal me. I take the pill. I get better and so excited. And then the doctor says, well, that was just a sugar pill. I go, wait a minute. If it was just a sugar pill, then what healed me? And the answer is simple. Your belief. You thought the pill was going to heal you. Your belief healed you because the pill didn't do it. And everybody goes, yeah, placebo effect. This positive thought introduced a positive expression. And I go, and here is the big problem. Focusing on the placebo effect and the results of positive thinking have eliminated any insight or understanding. What about negative thinking? Nobody talks about that. Negative thinking. We only talk about the positive thing from placebo. Well, negative thinking is so powerful. It's actually, there's a name for it in medicine called nocebo. And nocebo is the fact that a negative thought, and this is important for everyone, a negative thought is equally powerful in controlling your life as is a positive thought, but a negative thought controls it in the opposite direction. A placebo can heal you from any disease, essentially, and through that positive work. And a nocebo, and this is the point, can cause any disease, even if there was no genetic or chemical foundation for it. A negative thought can cause death. Fear causes illness and death. And it's only because it's using the same mechanism that placebo used to heal, nocebo uses to kill. That's the bottom line. So thought is at the top of the rung of control of your biology, environment and thought.
So that's like, I think I heard you talk about someone will be fine, but then they'll get a test and they'll tell them there's something there and they'll believe that they'll just die then because they'll believe that they have a tumor and they're going to die now.
Absolutely, because you see, the function of the mind is to take your beliefs and turn them into reality. And that very simple statement is so profound that it's too big to put in those few little words. It's like the perception in the mind creates reality because the function is the mind has an image and the brain will create a chemical complement to that image. That the brain's chemicals then shape the body to become a complement to the image. It's sort of like paint by numbers in reverse, meaning and most everybody at some point played with paint by numbers. You get a picture and it's all broken up into outlines, and in each outline is a number, and then the paint kit's got a number on all the different colors, and you take the color and fill in the little space with a number that matches it, and then lo and behold, you become this great artist by creating this picture. And I go, and life is the reverse of that, meaning first in the paint by numbers, you start with the outline with numbers, and then the numbers mean paints, and then the paints put in the right place give you the final picture. And I say, here's a simplification of life. Paint by numbers in reverse. Point. The mind creates the picture. The brain breaks the picture down into numbers, which in this case are hormones, emotional chemicals, growth factors, etc. These are the chemistry like paint. And the chemistry comes from the brain, goes into the body, and paints, quote unquote, paints the body so that the cells become a complement to the picture. If I come in with a negative thought, then the function of the brain will take that negative image, turn it into chemistry, release it into the body, and that chemistry result will cause the body to become a complement to the picture. So, paint by numbers in reverse, you start with a positive picture, and the body has a positive expression. You start with a negative picture, and the body, by definition, will create a complement, a negative expression. So when you're talking about illness, what does it mean? It's a reflection. It's like it's a feedback. Your processing is creating this, and so it's like a symptom. Cancer isn't the problem. Cancer is a symptom of a problem. I say, what's the problem? I say, stressful, negative thinking. And I go, that's what's causing the cancer, not the gene. So if we go down to the gene, we say, let's manipulate cancer with the genes. I go, the problem didn't start in the genes. It started in the consciousness that controls the genes. And this is the whole foundation of that new science called epigenetics, above the genes.
So our thoughts then could be creating a negative internal terrain through hormones and neurotransmitters and things that are being released.
Not could be, Debbie. Our thoughts are creating a negative chemistry.
And that's funny because then people try and take supplements and do all kinds of things to correct exactly what they're creating.
Exactly, because they're thinking,
so you're chasing your
there's
tail
something
then.
down below. It's not my mind, because the mind has never been put into the biology that people have learned. When they talk about biology, there's a standard dogma they repeat, go DNA, RNA, protein in that sequence. DNA, the genes, go to RNA, which is like a Xerox copy of the gene, and the RNA Xerox copy, the blueprint, is what makes the protein, which is our body. And that's always been the flow of information. And the fact is, what was wrong with that was the beginning part, that the gene was the kicking off of the behavior. Now, with the new science, it says, no, genes can't start their own behavior. They only respond to the environment. And all of a sudden I say, oh, well, then it's not DNA or RNA protein. It's environment, DNA, RNA, protein. And that environment is also perception. That's the top rung. If the perception is off, the cascade of chemistry after the negative thought that is coming from the brain, that cascade of negative chemistry causes the physical debilitation of the body at that level. And you say, okay, fine, I'm going to take supplements and do better. I say, well, okay, you're trying to fix the cascade of the chemistry, but that cascade wasn't the problem. It was the thought that created the cascade.
That's fascinating.
So trying to fix the chemistry is like, well, did you change the thought? I go, no. And I say, well, then you still got the problem. And in fact, this is the problem with, I can give you two scenarios of a cancer patient that, let's say, has interacts with a doctor and let's say has surgery to remove the cancer. Okay, that's a starting point. I have two patients that got to that starting point. They both went in, they had the cancer, the doctor removed the cancer, and now the question is, what's the prognosis? And I say, well, very simple. Some people will never get the cancer again, and other people, the cancer will come back. Okay? And I say, oh, well, those are the two outcomes. I say, can you understand or identify why some people get the cancer again and other people never get the cancer again?
One believes they will and one believes they won't.
Well, but it even comes more fundamental, because one says cancer is due to stupid cells. The genes in these cells are stupid. They caused the cancer, but I went to the doctor and they took out the stupid cells, and therefore I should be okay. The problem is the cells weren't stupid. It was the thought. So I say, if you thought the cells were stupid and you think now the problem is over with because you got the cancer surgery and you're going to go home and go, nope, the cancer cells are gone. I go, yeah, but the cancer didn't come from the cells. It came from the thoughts. So guess what? Over a period of time, if you didn't change the thoughts, the new cancer cells will show up again. Why? That was what caused them. And I said, what about the other people that don't get the cancer again? Those are the ones that get the diagnosis and go, oh my God, my life is not in harmony. There's so much stress and anger and all these issues in my life. And if I have cancer, and I got this cancer, and I hear I got this cancer, it shocks the psychology of those people. Go, oh man, my life is not in order. And then what do? They say, okay, I'm going to let go of these stresses. Like the physician says to both of them, you have, from the looks of this, about 3 more months, before it's terminal. And I go, okay, group 1, who believe the cells were stupid, but now feel better because the stupid cells are out, will actually get the cancer again, and life will be terminated. When it comes back, they'll go, oh no, boom, I'm done. I say the other people got the cancer diagnosis and said, oh man, it's the stresses and my life is just not in harmony. And they say, I'm going to let go of all this stuff. I only got 3 months, the doctor said, so what am I going to do? I said, I'm going to let go of all this crap that's really negatively affecting my life. I'm going to take my money, I'm going to go on the road, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to go on vacation and enjoy the remaining days. And all of a sudden, they're on the road, and it's 3 months, then 5 months, and then 9 months, and then a year, and they're still on the road. And they're enjoying themselves. I said, so what's the difference? The one who let go of the stresses is the one who won't get the cancer back. The one who doesn't deal with the stresses but just blame the cells, unfortunately, they blame the wrong thing. And as a result, the cells will come back.
There was one thing I saw I've found fascinating, because I've been concerned with electromagnetic frequencies. And I saw something about you saying stress affects how we actually react to them. And specifically estrogen, which is cancer causing. So if somebody's not under stress, they won't be affected by things like toxins, I guess, in the environment and things like that.
Let me give you this. I'll give you an insight, and it's so profoundly important to everything that this one example, if you own the meaning of this thing, you'll understand how powerful we are. Okay? And here it is. In the South in the U.S., we have some fundamentalist religious people who work themselves up into religious ecstasy and start speaking tongues and crazy things, and they start to do something called testifying. And I say, what do you mean testifying? Well, they want to show their belief and trust in God is so great, they will do something no normal person in their right mind would ever do, but they do it because they know God protects them. Unshaking belief in that. And I say, well, like what? And I say, well, some of them are snake handlers. They'll play with all these poisonous things like rattlesnakes and coral snakes whose bites are toxic and poisonous. I say, they play with these snakes with the knowing that God protects them. I say, well, what's the consequence? I say, well, most of them, when they get bitten, there's no problem. Although about 3 months ago, one of these snake handlers did die from a snake bite. Most of them don't. And I go, oh, okay, so you can get bit by a snake, but if your belief is strong enough, it will not have a negative effect. And I go, yeah, and I go, here's the one that I wanted to emphasize. This is the one. To testify that God protects them, they drink strychnine poison in toxic doses, and in the result, have no harmful effects. And I go, wow. What the hell does that mean? And I said, the belief is what's controlling the biology. The belief that God protects them, and this is not 99% belief. Belief is like pregnancy. You either are pregnant or you're not pregnant, but there's nothing in the middle, So belief is 100% belief that God protects them, and they drink strychnine poison and nothing happens. Then all of a sudden I say, and here are people worrying about sugar and these other things in the diet.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The point was, the food you eat and those things don't affect you unless you are open to that effect. And stress is what opens you to that effect. And go back to the electromagnetic fields in that research. They were looking and said, yep, you do a population study, there's a much higher incidence of illness and disease in families that live under high tension power lines. So they do the survey and they find out, yeah, well, of course, a lot of people ended up having some sickness from living under this toxic environment, but there are just as many people out there or more that don't get sick. Now the question is, Well, then, does the high tension cause sickness? And the answer is, in some people, yes, and other people, no. It's the same, does BRCA1 gene cause cancer? In some people, yes, and other people, no. And I go, so the high tension power line, like the genes, only affect people if their resistance is down, if they're under stress. That's what they found out. Only people under stress, under the power lines, got sick. And that meant what? Well, when you're stressed, you become vulnerable. That's why people get sick all the time when they're stressed. So whatever illness it is, stress will allow it to manifest because stress breaks down the protection barriers. It cuts off the immune system. Stress hormones shut down the immune system, which is vital to keep you healthy. And I go, so when the immune system is down, then the environmental things like electromagnetic fields, toxic chemicals, all these things, if you're under stress, those things have like an opening to get to you. Okay? And I go, and when you're not under stress, those things won't get there. And a biggest issue is that one of the things that results when there's an image of stress in the mind, that, remember I said the mind takes a picture and translates it into chemistry. So a person under stress is releasing stress hormones. I go, yeah, but what's significant about them? Well, stress hormones do two things to open you up to disease. And one of them is simply this. Every day we have to grow. I don't care what age we are. It could be 100 years old. I say you have to grow every day. And the reason is very simple. Because a body is made out of about 50 trillion cells. But some cells have very short lifespan. They die. Skin cells are continuously shuffling off, and hair cells are dropping out, and you're replacing the hair, you're replacing the skin. Even the lining of the digestive tract, which is, hundreds of billions of cells, are replaced every 3 days in a healthy person. So I say, wait a minute. I need to replace these cells, because if I don't, how many days can I go? If I'm losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, how many days can I go before the loss of those cells is going to interfere with my life? And I go, well, the beautiful part is every day then you lose cells, every day you make new cells. And they're from your stem cells. Stem cells are the embryonic cells in your body whose job it is to replace those cells that are being lost every day. Okay? So I go, but it takes energy to do that. And I go, so what does stress mean? Stress means you're being threatened. And most people remember from high school the adrenal gland. It's called fight or flight gland. It organizes the body to get into fight or flight. You gotta prepare. And I say, okay, so here's the point. You're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. And therefore, you want to engage the adrenal glands for fight or flight. And I say, what's the function of the stress hormone? Very clearly, you ready? Stress hormones allocate the blood to the arms and legs, because those are the structures you're going to need to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. Since energy is in the blood, when stress hormones are released into the body, they cause the blood vessels to switch control to push the blood to the arms and legs, because if you're running away from the saber-toothed tiger, that's where you want the energy. I say, well, how does it do it? And here's a sentence out of a textbook, and then I need to explain it. And the sentence is, when stress hormones are released into the body, the blood is preferentially sent to the arms and legs. I go, yeah, we just talked about that. The blood has the energy. I need the energy to run away from the tiger, so the blood needs to be going to the arms and legs. The point in that sentence that stands out is the blood is preferentially sent to the arms and legs. I go, wait. Where was the blood before it went to the arms and legs? I go, it was the only part of your body left when you take your arms and legs off is the viscera, the gut. I go, why should the blood be in the gut? I go, because that's where all the maintenance of the body takes place. That's where all the energy is produced, where all the toxic stuff is removed, the blood is filtered, the air is filtered, the nutritions are put in, digestion occurs, all these wonderful things that keep us alive. And they use energy. It takes energy to keep you alive. But if you come being chased by a tiger, then the hell with the energy for growth. I want all the energy for my arms and legs. That's what the stress hormones do. So the moment a person is in fear, they frequently feel like butterflies in the stomach, that queasiness. I go, you know what that is? That's the hormones causing the blood vessels to get squeezed shut. Because when I squeeze the blood vessels in the gut shut, it forces the blood to go to the arms and legs preferentially. And that's why I'm saving energy by shutting down growth to run away from the tiger. And then this is the second part, and then we'll put it together. So the first part is the maintenance of the body is shut down when you're in stress. Second part, the immune system uses tremendous amount of energy. It does. I go, yeah. You've ever been sick? You may have not had enough energy to get out of bed. Because energy is tremendous energy for the immune system. So, okay, now I go back to our story. Tiger is chasing me. Stress hormones are released into the body, allocating energy that was in my gut to my arms and legs, so growth is shut down. And here is the critical piece of data, Debbie, and that is the stress hormones shut off the immune system because it uses so much energy. And if I have a bacterial infection and I'm fighting the immune system and a tiger is chasing me, it's only logical. How would you like to distribute that energy? How much you want to spend energy to fight the bacteria and how much you want to run away from the tiger? And the
I think I'd run.
Pretty logical, yeah. The bacterial infection is no big deal if the tiger eats you, so the hell with that. That's not going to help. So
let me ask you then, these stresses then, are these stresses that we are creating ourselves from working too hard, from exercising too hard, from not eating right, or are they more from programming from our childhood that we are only important if we're working too much?
Interesting fact, because it's like either or, but the fact is this. No, the programming that we got in the first 7 years determines how we respond to the stresses in our later life. So we still go back to the early program and say, how did your parents deal with this program? How did they deal with stress? Did they get angry? Did they hold that anger? Did they burst out? Whatever they did, and you learn that's going to be how you're going to respond to stresses on your job, the world environment, economics, all these things right now. So how you're behaving to what you call today's stresses is actually based on the programming of how your family, especially your parents, how they behaved under the same stresses, because that's what you copied, okay? So the issue is this. Stress does two things that will cause the dysfunction in the biology. Number one, it shuts down the growth, which we need every day to replace those cells. And number two, it shuts down the immune system. And I go, well, what's the relevance? I say, well, if you shut down the immune system, infective agents, which we already have in our body, everyone's already infected. Actually, in medicine, they're called opportunistic organisms, meaning if you're in a healthy state of mind with no stress in the system, the immune system will regulate and keep these organisms from growing. But the moment you get stress in the system, it shuts down the immune system, and then these organisms take the opportunity and start to manifest illness. So stress leads to illness, and it's interfering with this immune system, okay? And I say, well, that sounds like a stupid idea, nature. Why would you interfere with so much, the immune system and growth, with this stress? And here's what the point is. Because in the day when these systems were developed, 100,000 years ago, the only thing you had to worry about was that damn saber-toothed tiger. Outside of that, as a human, you really didn't have to worry about too much. You can manage everything else. So in the old days, when was stress? Well, just when you were being chased by the tiger. You get away from the tiger, stress is gone. So in the old days, you use stress for short, intermittent bursts when you needed it. But then in between, you're always in growth. And I say, in today's world, stress is 24/7, 365. We didn't design the body to have that much stress hormone continuously dripping in there and interfering with the system. And just to emphasize the power of the stress hormones on the immune system, this is an important fact. Medical doctors in transplanting an organ, let's say somebody needs a kidney or a lung or a heart, the person who's going to receive the organ, before they transplant the organ, they give that person stress hormones. They give them stress hormones. I say, why? Because it inhibits the immune system. So when the foreign organ is introduced into their body, the immune system will not immediately reject it because the stress hormones are inhibiting the action. I go, well, that's a therapeutic use of it, but in everyday life, the stress hormones are debilitating us because they're shutting down growth and they're shutting down the immune system, not for a brief interval, but for days at a time.
Oh, really?
And that's where chronic illness comes from, perpetual stress, because we were designed only for short stresses. Tiger chasing you, stress, escape the tiger, no more stress. And today, 24/7, 365. So unfortunately, the way we behave is antagonistic to the way evolution designed us, because it didn't design us to be in stress all this time.
I see. So if someone gets a cancer diagnosis, of course, that is a scary thing.
That's the stress.
It sure is. So what
and right at that moment, the moment they even hear that is the moment the immune system shuts down. And I go, well, Jesus, if we're going to have a cancer situation, the last thing I want to do is have the immune system shut down. And I say, yeah, but that's the first thing that shuts down when the diagnosis is given.
So what can someone do then?
Own a new awareness. Knowledge is power. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. A lack of knowledge about you are the one that controls your genes. In place, you put in a lack of knowledge by saying, I'm a victim of the genes. Then you've lost your power.
And then we also need to somehow reprogram that subconscious mind that's...
Absolutely. If you couldn't reprogram the subconscious mind, this would be the worst interview anybody ever heard, because they say, oh, well, actually, probably what they already believe. Oh, that's my fate. I can't do anything about it.
Right.
And I'm going, no, this is the most wonderful part about epigenetic science. It says if you change your perceptions, you change your genetics. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, then I'm the one that controls the cancer. And I go, yes. And if you don't know it...
So I heard you say that we can read and we can learn and know, but that's the conscious mind that's only present 5% of the time?
Yes, I'm glad you got that, because that's then why, how come some people are so smart about everything I just said? Oh, yeah, I heard about epigenetics. I understand all these things you're talking about. I still got the cancer. And I said, well, the mind causes the cancer, and this is what you're bringing up is the very critical part, Debbie, we say the mind, everybody thinks the mind is a single entity, the mind. I go, no, the mind is comprised of two subdivisions, two separate entities that work together. One is called the conscious mind, one is called the subconscious mind. I go, wow. I say, what's the difference? I say, and this is profound, because they have, and this is the interesting part, they have different functions, and more importantly, they learn in different ways. Mm-hmm. The conscious mind is creative. Just by that definition, the conscious mind is the mind that has your wishes and desires, because wishes and desires are what you want to create. So I want to have health, happiness, love, joy, money, whatever. These are from conscious mind. That's a great wish and a desire. The subconscious mind is not creative. It's just habits. Here's the program. Push the button. Program will play. I learned the program when I was 2. Hey, guess what? I'm 72, and I push the button to walk, and it's still the same program. So for 70 years here, I have this wonderful habit program. It comes from the subconscious mind. So I say, okay, the conscious mind is the one that says, I want to be healthy. The subconscious mind, the one that got the programs in there that were actually debilitating you, the bad programming in the first 7 years, okay? I go, oh, the subconscious mind has got the habits, and I learned them from my mother, and she got the cancer because she got the habit for the cancer from her mother, who got it from her mother, and I go, oh, it's a lineage of acquiring behavior in the conscious mind. It's downloaded, and I go, okay, how does it work? And here it is. Conscious mind is creative, and subconscious mind is habit. And the fact is this, you have in the first 7 years of your life a period where your brain is in hypnosis. And I say, why? Because that was the period where the programs to be a functional member of a family and a community are downloaded straight to the subconscious mind. The conscious mind's not even working. So, I mean, this is a really critical part because I say, well, tell me about the programs you got when you were 0. Oh, okay, tell me about the programs you got when you were 1. Oh, okay, tell me about the programs you got when you were 2. Why? This was when the programs were coming in. You go, I don't know.
So we're not even aware of them.
I wasn't aware. My conscious mind wasn't even working. I go, there's your problem right there.
So I can run all these wonderful things, but I'm just going to keep going back to my programming.
Yeah, but you see, and the question is, you say, well, wait, why should I defer to the program? If my conscious mind creative, I just stay in my conscious mind. I will create what I want. I go, yeah, but here's the problem. The conscious mind is in control, the driver of your life. What is your wish? What is your desire? I say, when you got your hands on the wheel and your conscious mind is driving your biological vehicle, it will drive you to your destination, wishes and desires. But then I go, but the conscious mind's got this very unique characteristic called thinking. I go, what's unique about that? I go, well, I say, Debbie, what are you doing next Wednesday at 2 o'clock? The moment I ask that question, the answer isn't outside. You look around now. You look around the room. Is there a place where it says what you're doing on Wednesday at 2 o'clock? I said, no, it's not there. I said, where's the answer? Inside. The moment you had to answer the question, what am I doing, is your consciousness let go of the wheel, driving the vehicle, went inside your head and said, okay, what am I doing on Wednesday? And it's working on that. And I go, yeah, but let's say you're walking down the street. And all of a sudden you start thinking, and the conscious mind lets go of the wheel, and the conscious mind is now inside looking for an answer about Wednesday. And I go, yeah, but who the heck is driving the vehicle? You're walking down the street. Did you just stop and freeze as the thought was going on? I go, no. This is the critical, simple part. The subconscious is autopilot, automatic. Put it on autopilot. Why? I'm letting go of the wheel. Quick on autopilot, self-driving vehicle, brand new self-driving vehicle, takes care. I could sit in the back seat, talk to the passenger, let the vehicle go ahead. Self-driving. I said, yeah, but self-driving means it has a program. I go, yeah. You're driving the vehicle using the programs you got in the first 7 years when your conscious mind is thinking. Conscious mind lets go of the wheel. You're still walking. Subconscious mind is very powerful. Make sure you can continue walking. You don't walk into a tree. You don't walk into the traffic. You're still being controlled, but autopilot. But the control is only expressing the behavior that you learned in the first 7 years. I learned how to walk in the first 7 years. I don't need to consciously say, okay, left foot, left foot, do it by myself. So I go, here we're coming down to a critical issue here, Debbie, and that is this. The conscious mind is creative and can lead you to anything you want in this life, health, happiness, money, anything. That's your creative mind. It's going to take you there when you got the hands on the wheel. But 95% of the day, and that's the knowledge from science's assessment, 95% of the day, we're engaged in thinking. And then I say, then there's an immediate consequence. 95% of your life is not coming from the conscious creative wishes and desires. That mind's busy thinking. 95% of your life is coming from the program that you've been programmed with in the first 7 years. And I go, well, what's the issue? I say, well, psychologists tell us 70% or more of those programs in the first 7 years are self-sabotaging, limiting, and disempowering. And I go, well, okay, wait, let's put all the picture together. I'm walking down the street. All of a sudden I have a thought. My conscious mind clicks in into the brain. My conscious mind's looking inside my head for some thought. And as my conscious mind is busy doing that, let's go of the driving. Now the driving is put into the automatic programs in the subconscious, which knows how to walk, knows how to watch out. So I'm pretty safe. Even driving the car, I could do the same thing. And then I go, but here's the problem. because my conscious mind is thinking during this time, it's not paying attention to the automatic program that's playing at the same time. Conscious mind can't see both. You want to think or you want to watch a program? It's either or. So I go, so when we're thinking, the automatic programs kick in, and since 70% or so are negative, that means 95% of the day when this subconscious is in control, the vast majority of the programs are going to sabotage us. And you go, yeah, but I would see it. And I go, no, you won't see it, because the reason you're playing these programs is because your conscious mind's busy. And these programs unfold, and your life is being controlled by these behaviors that you don't even see, and they could sabotage you. And if the behavior is a behavior that can elicit cancer, then 95% of the day you are engaging in programs unconsciously, creating a cancer while your conscious mind is dabbling with thought on the inside. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we are creating our diseases unconsciously through programs that we acquired in the first 7 years. Very quickly, just to give an example of this, and I give it in every lecture because the same example is the most profound example, and almost everyone in the audience responds to it. And here's the story. I say, I'm sure most of you, sometime in your life, were very close to a friend, and you knew your friend's behavior very, very well. And you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you recognize that your friend has the exact same behavior as their parent. And since this excites you, you can't wait to tell your friend. So you say, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And Bill goes ballistic. Bill goes, how can you compare me to my dad? And everyone in the audience laughs to a degree because they're familiar with it. And I go, most profound story for the point we're making, Debbie, and that is this. Everybody else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. I say, explain that. I go, sure, I told you. Bill got the behavior in the first 7 years by observing his dad, so that's where the program came from. Bill only plays that program when he's not paying attention because he's thinking, so when that behavior is coming out, only Bill is the one that does not see the behavior. Everyone else is involved with that behavior that Bill is playing. Only Bill doesn't see it. So then you go back and you say, if some of those behaviors are precipitating a cancer, negative, stressful behaviors, I say, would the average person see they're doing this? And I go, no, they're playing the behavior because their mind is busy. They're not paying attention. So they're sabotaging themselves, and they're the only ones who don't see it. I say, what is the net consequence of that person's life? And the answer is this. In the morning, they get up with wishes and desires. Today is health. Today I'm going out to find love. Today I'm going to get the best job. And 8 o'clock in the morning, they leave the house with conscious wish, conscious desire for all the success. At 5 o'clock, they come home, dragging themselves, and they go and say, geez, it didn't happen today. Today was another crap day, and it didn't happen. And so my desire to be happy, healthy, successful, whatever it is, was not satisfied. And here's the point. They were the ones that sabotaged their own desire, but they're the ones that didn't see it. Therefore, there's only one conclusion these people have. I'm a victim. I'm the one that wanted success, and look, it didn't happen, and therefore the universe is not supporting me. Whether this is looking for love, romance, or the deal with cancer, it's all the same. I'm going out and I'm going to be healthy. I don't care. Cancer has nothing to do with me. I know it's running in the family, but I consciously am not going to get the cancer. And I go, that's really great. How much is your conscious running the show? Oh, only 5%? Geez, I'm really sorry, because the 95% that's running the show is the program where the cancer came from. And since you didn't see it operating 95% of the day, when cancer shows up, everyone immediately accepts the story, I am a victim of cancer. And it's like, oh my God, you can't resolve cancer if you come from the victim point of view, because you're not a victim. You're participating in the cancer unknowingly. And that's where knowledge is power. You have no knowledge of what we just talked about, you can walk down the street the rest of your life and say everything that happens to me is victimization by the universe is not supporting me. And that's
so people say, they're fighting cancer and they're putting up the good fight and everything, but they're just not fighting the programming.
That's the issue. If the program is the cause of cancer, and that's why I said the difference between two people with the same cancer, and one says, oh no, the cancer cells are stupid, I didn't have anything to do with it, I'm going to fight the cancer, I'm going to eat this macrobiotic diet because that's going to stop the cancer. And I go, holy Jesus, you got it wrong again. The cancer wasn't caused by the diet. It was caused much higher up in the chain of command. It started with the program. So I don't care how much macrobiotic diet you're going to eat. If you don't change the program, the system will come back, and sometimes at a vengeance. It may give you a simple cancer at first. I say, is the cancer the problem? No, I'm trying to tell you, the cancer is the symptom. If there's a cancer showing up, it's a reflection you're not in harmony with your biology and the life you're living. That's all it says. And you say, the cancer cells did that. I say, no, that belief is wrong. That's called genetic determinism. We know that's not true anymore. It's epigenetics, that environment and perception are causing the cancer. You want to change the cancer? Then deal with the environment, and most importantly, deal with your perceptions about life, because that's where the source is. Anything after that, you're trying to fix downstream. It's irrelevant. You already started the cascade with your mind. Fixing a macrobiotic diet, which is way down the line, will not affect the issue because it didn't start there.
That's really fascinating. So how can we reprogram our subconscious mind? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, this is now comes down to the bottom line of how do I get control of my life? And the interesting part about it is I have a book called The Honeymoon Effect. Mm-hmm. And the honeymoon effect simply says this. For most people, let's just say life is just bad. It sucks. It's not great. It's not bad. It's like that. And then one day you meet this wonderful person. They come into your life and you fall in love. And the next day you wake up in this love and it's like, oh my God, life is so beautiful and the music is great, the food's great, and the planet is beautiful and it's heaven on earth. And I go, wait. You just spent 25 years living here that this place sucks. 24 hours later, it's heaven on earth. I go, how the hell that happen? And the answer is, this is the fun part. The moment you fall in love is the moment you stop defaulting to the subconscious program. The moment you fall in love, it's such a impact on your system that rather than going into thought, you keep your conscious mind present, the hands on the wheel. Why? You're taking in consciously all this wonderful, the food is great, this person's great, this is wonderful. You're taking it in. You're not thinking. I go, oh, that's the answer. Science found out when you fall in love like that, you stop defaulting to the subconscious, and now you're running your life on the conscious mind, wishes and desires. And what did you manifest when you stopped playing the program? Heaven on earth. What's the point? Where the hell did the problems come from? The program. Now comes your question is, well, if I have these programs and they're causing all the problems, can I change them? And the answer is yes, but then I go back to, remember I said the two minds, conscious and subconscious minds, have different functions, conscious creative, subconscious habit. But I also said they learn in different ways. The creative character of the conscious mind clearly is a creative way to learn. People can listen to this podcast that we're doing right now and learn from that. They could read a self-help book. They can go to a lecture. They can watch a video. And I go, yeah, the conscious mind can learn just by seeing these things. They go, I got it. Aha, it's creative. I just downloaded the new idea. I go, did that idea now in the conscious mind change the subconscious? I go, no. Why? It doesn't learn in the same way. So our conscious minds over our experiences become very smart. Oh my God, look, you could have all those wonderful things. And then I say, yeah, but you still have the same subconscious behaviors that have been sabotaging you your whole life. So I don't care how smart you made your conscious mind. If you didn't change the subconscious, it's still going to play the same programs 95% of the time. And that's the disconnect where everybody reads about all the wonderful things about how to empower themselves and then realize, Yeah, but I read that self-help book. I could get 100 if he gave me a test. I understood it. How come my life doesn't match what I now know? And the answer is because your life's not coming from that mind. It's coming from subconscious. It learns by hypnosis for up through age 7. After age 7, it learns by repetition. Anything you wanted to learn, you had to practice it. Whether it was saying ABC over and over again until you can get to Z, driving a car, you had to get in, you had to practice it. Learning a game, you had to practice it. Once you practice repetition, that's where the subconscious learns. So reading a self-help book is not repetition. That's a one-shot deal. I go, yeah, one-shot deal is all it took to make the conscious mind become, oh, yeah, that's really great. And I say, now that you read the book, did the subconscious mind change? I go, no, it didn't change because that's not how it learned. It learns from hypnosis, repetition, and I just want to add the third one because of limitations of time, because this is the real cool, juicy information. There are new ways of reprogramming the subconscious. The old way of hypnosis or self-hypnosis, for example, putting earphones on at night as you're going to bed, because as soon as your conscious disconnects as you fall into sleep, your mind goes back into theta. That's the vibrational phase that your mind was in the first 7 years. When your mind is in theta, it takes information straight into the subconscious because conscious is not engaged. So putting a program on every night as you're going to bed with earphones on, you are subliminally installing a program. Conscious mind's asleep, subconscious mind's still recording. So whatever the program is, that it can be recorded. Number 2, after age 7, repeating a behavior that you want. And you repeat it and you repeat it and repeat it, and then it becomes a habit, and then it's natural. The new one is called energy psychology. There's so many different varieties of it on my website, which is brucelipton.com. I've listed 20 or more different versions of energy psychology. What's different about them? They engage a process like super learning, which allows you to rewrite a program, a behavioral program in your subconscious in about 10 minutes, which is compared to 2 or 3 weeks or more with subliminal tapes or repetition. In about 10 minutes using super learning, you can change a behavior. And then lastly, just to make the story complete, is because we weren't there during the big part of the programming, meaning consciously, you were being programmed actually last trimester of pregnancy and through first 7 years. And I say, well, hey, Deb, hey, what program did you get when you were 1? As we talked about, it's like, I don't know. It wasn't consciously there, so I don't know. And then I go, well, here's the fun part, so you don't have to spend a lot of aggravating, anxiety-producing, emotionally destabilizing psychoanalysis where you talk about the stories and bring them back up and relive them again. That doesn't actually help most of the time. Matter of fact, it might even be worse because it keeps the same story going.
Okay.
The simple fact is this. Just look at your life. Why? 95% of your life, for the average person, that it comes from your subconscious. So that means your life is a printout of your program. So you look at your life, and here's a simple thing. All the things that you have in your life that come into your life that you're happy with, they got into your life because you have a program that acknowledges that. That's how you got them.
Right.
In contrast, and this is the one that's important, anything you struggle with, anything you put a lot of effort into to make it happen, anything you have to work hard to make it go, you're working, you're stressing, you're efforting, and I go, why are you working so hard to make this come in? The answer inevitably is whatever it is that you were trying to get, the subconscious programs you've been programmed with do not support that. And
yeah, I think people get very frustrated because you want something so bad and you keep trying and you just can't get it to work.
But how are you trying? That was the point that I wanted to ask. How are people trying to do that?
With your willpower.
So willpower is you want your conscious mind to tell your subconscious mind what to do, right?
Right.
Okay, you ready? The joke? You, as an identity, are in what is called the prefrontal cortex of your brain, right behind your forehead. That's the center of consciousness. So in the conscious mind, your identity is an integral element in controlling it, right?
Right.
But the subconscious mind is a record playback device, like a old-fashioned tape player or a CD player. I talk into the player, it records the program, and now it's recorded. I say, so here's a situation. You have a program on let's say a CD has a program. You put it in the player, you turn it on, you push play, the program's going. You say, I don't like the program. So I say, then what? I say, talk to the machine. Tell the machine you don't like the program.
Right.
Say, CD machine, I don't like this program. I want a different machine. I say, keep talking to the machine. Why? Because apparently the program's still not changing. And you keep talking, and then you get frustrated, and then you get angry. Damn stupid machine. I keep telling you I don't want this behavior. And I go, there's nobody in the subconscious. It's a machine. You could talk to your blue in the face. You could get frustrated as hell. And you want that machine to change, and you keep talking to it. And I go, there's nobody in there.
There's nobody in there, yeah.
So your talking is useless, isn't it? What you need to do is push the record button. I say, how do you push the record button? A, hypnosis. B, repetition. C, energy psychology. If you want to change,
it's actually recording over old programming.
Yep, it replaces you have stimulus and response. The behavior is the response. The stimulus is always in the environment. So you can't change the environment. The stimuli are always there. The only thing you can change is when the stimulus is received, what would my behavior be after the stimulus, the response? I can change the response. So why is it important? If people say, well, I'm just going to ignore that behavior. And I say, you can't ignore the behavior. Why? It's automatic. Stimulus comes in, brain will automatically make the behavior, whether you want to pay attention or not. It's not you. It's automatic. So the point about it is this. You want to change the behavior. And I say, well, how do you know your behavior? I say, look at your life. The things you don't like, you really want a positive spin on that. So I say, well, what behavior would that be? So you say, let's say I am a sick person right now. I have disease. I say, yeah, but what do you want? I say, I am healthy. That's different than I am sick. I say, I am healthy. And of course, at first the brain goes, you're healthy. No, you got to fix this. I say, no, keep repeating, I am healthy. And I say, why? Repetition.
So you're trying to instill a belief?
It's called fake it till you make it.
I see.
You say, I am healthy, I am healthy, I'm healthy, and repeat it every time you can. I am healthy, I'm healthy. And what the information is in the brain, because it's repetition now, the brain picks up and says, yeah, you keep repeating, I am healthy, I'm healthy. It will download I am healthy in the brain. Now, here's where the issue comes in. You have cancer. You just programmed in the mind, I am healthy. But the function of the mind and the brain is to take your program and make it real. So if your body is sick, but a new program is installed, I am healthy, then what do you think the function of the mind is? It's going to look at the body and go, geez, I got to fix that because it's not in harmony with the program. And then it would heal itself.
So you start releasing new chemicals,
Right, releasing the chemistry of healing versus the stress chemistry that has been causing the problem.
That's very interesting.
So the net result is simply this. If you took the beliefs from your conscious mind, the creative mind, the beliefs that you have about yourself and the world, that you're strong and powerful and you can do all these things, and you can put those beliefs and reprogram them into the subconscious. Here's the beautiful part. It's the conscious mind that created the honeymoon. It was the subconscious mind that took it away. If the conscious mind programs could be installed into the subconscious mind, which they can, then that means whether you're being conscious or whether your conscious lets go and you're running by default subconscious, in both cases, the programs will be health, happiness, love, success, in both cases. So that means whether I'm paying attention or I'm not paying attention, I will always be programming that destination of love and health and all those other things.
Really fascinating.
Empowering. Totally.
It's very empowering.
No knowledge of
this. The opposite of what we've been taught.
Absolutely. And that's why what we call knowledge of what we've been taught turns out to be false. And if you follow that false knowledge, then you become the victim. And all the illnesses and problems that people face on this world manifest, and we perceive ourselves as victims. I say that's the old belief. We have
especially
to
with cancer, because It's kind of, they tell us we're victims to our genetics and then only offer chemo and radiation, which has never really been very effective. And
I can tell you why. Let me just answer that question right away. You ready? If I was a healthy person, like I am, and you sent me to the doctor to do chemotherapy and radiation, I will return a sick person. That's a fact. Radiation and chemotherapy kill cells. They don't distinguish whether they're killing cancer cells or stem cells. They kill both of them. I go, uh-oh, why? The stem cells were keeping me alive and keeping me healthy. If I do chemotherapy and radiation, I kill them as fast as I kill the cancer cells. What's the net result? I come out of those procedures, I am not capable of maintaining my health as I was before I did those procedures. It's a sick person getting kicked and getting sicker because of those therapies. And the statistics, if you really go into the data, really reveal that they're not necessarily in the long range beneficial at all. That in fact they're toxic. As I said, if you're a healthy person and those things can get you sick, geez, just think if you're a sick person and you did it, it will make you sicker, not better. And that's unfortunately an outright conclusion. Now, would I use chemotherapy if I have cancer? And I'm going to clarify that right at this moment. If the cancer is growing to an extent and I wasn't aware of it, and then all of a sudden I get a diagnosis and the cancer is like overwhelming at this instant, in this one moment, I'll do a shot or two of chemotherapy to knock the cancer back, just to help me, because I need a little bit of time to reorganize my consciousness to take over. Obviously, it wasn't working right. That's why I got the cancer. So I would do a shot or two, but after that, I would keep away from it, because after the first shot or two of chemotherapy and radiation, you've essentially got the larger majority of the cancer cells out. Any other continuation of that procedure, the therapy or the radiation, the chemotherapy or radiation, now will preferentially kill more stem cells than it's killing cancer cells. So I'm not saying don't do chemotherapy and radiation. I say if the cancer is aggressive, you need something at least to hold it back momentarily, but don't rely on that as a solution. It's a temporary ability to give you a chance to get your consciousness in order so that you can take back the power. I mean,
but you can't do the chemo and radiation without reorganizing the subconscious.
Yeah, if you don't do that, you're just killing yourself, and you didn't change the problem, the cause of the problem. So you've made yourself weaker, and the cause of the problem is still there. Guess what? It can hurt you much more, because now you're weaker than you were before. So doing chemotherapy and all that without changing consciousness is actually a detriment to the system.
And even changing other habits, even nutrition and everything.
Well, that's the beautiful part. What would it take if you sit back and say, if I'm living the healthiest life, what does it take? And I say, well, the nutrition is very important. But then it's also dependent on the level of consciousness. Well, if you're a low level of consciousness that cancer is manifesting, then damn well take care of nutrition as well.
And by low level of consciousness, you mean the subconscious is really the program's running strong.
Yeah, it's actually not helping you. It's creating a disability when you're not noticing it working, and you got to change it. I want to go the other extreme. The other extreme is, what if you become fully conscious? I go, then you don't need anything. You don't need the food. You don't need even to worry about nutrition. Why? The fully conscious person can trap the energy out of the environment, which is like what people like sun gazers, breatharians, people who have programmed their system, don't need all the nutrition that we have, because that itself is another belief issue. And interestingly, one of the reasons why we die so young at 80 or 90 when we should live to at least 140 is nutrition leads to toxic byproducts. When you burn something like gasoline in the car, you're burning the fuel. The exhaust coming out of the tailpipe is toxic. No different. You burn food, which is burning the food. The toxic byproducts are called free radicals. It's like coming out the exhaust pipe of metabolism. free radicals are the things that kill people. And so reducing the intake of food enhances the longevity of the organism. Fact of biology.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And it's misdirecting it. You say, oh, the nutrition is causing it or something. No, nutrition, may influence it, but as a cause, no, it had nothing to do with it.
Wow. So this is great because it takes us out of victim status, and it shows us that our genes are not controlling us and that we have the power by reprogramming our subconscious mind to make ourselves healthy and be the master of our own health.
I love that because that is the conclusion, Debbie.
So we need to learn about energy psychology and super learning.
But learning really more about who we are into really understanding the role of the subconscious and conscious minds, how they integrate their activity, how they program. Because if you have been given information of how to do it, then by definition you have the tools, the utility at your hand to empower your life. If I couldn't tell you how to change the programming, then by definition, as most people are, they're stuck in their program even though they consciously reject the idea. It's like, yeah, I don't care if you consciously reject it because the program isn't coming from the conscious, it's coming from the subconscious. And until you change that, I'm sorry, you're in trouble.
Wow. That's really neat stuff.
It is, and that's the whole basis of remission. A cancer remission is when a mindset changes, not a chemistry. A mindset changes.
So there must be something in that person's programming then that allows them to take over like that.
That's the positive part because they say, I am intentioning a change. So the intention of healing, I go, that's the intention. I say, okay, what about the sugar pill? I say, that supports the intention, the placebo. Okay?
I see.
So I say, okay, the diet, the macrobiotic diet is going to heal me. I say, not without the intention.
Okay.
Macrobiotic diet can actually cause people to die faster if they're not used to the system. So it's like, first the intention of why I do the macrobiotic, then the macrobiotic diet is like the sugar pill. I do it because it's the icon that represents my intention.
Okay.
And so
I'm very interested in the techniques and the energy psychology and.
Wow, that's the most important thing. I mean, my whole life, I have two lives in this one body in this lifetime. Before I knew this awareness and after. Before, like everyone else, is like, wow, look at all the crap that's raining down on me all over the place. And after the consciousness, it's like, oh my God, I was the one that was doing that. It's gone. And now guess what? Healthy, happy, loving, enjoying life. No doctor for, let's see, I had a hernia operation, but that's a physical mechanical thing.
Right.
I just want people to understand allopathic physicians do miracles with trauma. But when it comes to Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, illnesses of that, they're not that good because they don't understand the mechanism. They're still locked in. The genes did this. It's like, no, you have to let go. It's not that, and that's why we haven't been able to resolve it. You keep affecting the genes, and the control wasn't in the genes. It was above the genes, epigenetics.
Wow, it's really fascinating.
It is.
So if people want to learn more about how to reprogram the subconscious, they can go to your website?
Absolutely. All kinds of resources on there, articles and videos and interviews and things. Lots of other resources of where to go to make changes. So all that information is freely available on that website.
Wonderful.
I think it is. And
this was a fascinating interview. It's wonderful information for anybody trying to make a change in their health or their life.
Absolutely.
I have one last question, and this was someone from the organization that really wanted to know. So juvenile cancer.
Yeah.
Is that more genetic?
No. It's field. It's an environment.
It is.
Yeah, it's called entanglement. You say, what's entanglement? I say, oh, it's another study, but what we perceive as the physical world is an illusion. In other words, you see a tree, you see a room and lamps, and you say, I can see all these things. I go, the only reason you can see them is because light is bouncing off the surface and we see the reflected light. So I say, what's underneath that surface of photons, the veneer of photons? I say, energy, because what quantum physics revealed is the atom that we learned in school that we thought was like marbles and ball bearings, little solar system, physical thing, that's not real. That's an illusion. Because when they started to find out, well, what are those electrons and protons and neutrons? What are they made out of? The things that give us structure. I go, inside a proton, electron, or a neutron, energy vortex, like a little nano tornado. It's nothing physical. So the entire atom is built out of energy. Yeah, but you say, I can see it. And I go, that's because the light is bouncing off of it. Everything is energy. And I go, what's relevant? With the illusion of physical things, I say, here's object one and here's object two. I move them apart. Now they're separated from each other. See, they don't touch each other. I go, if matter was the real understanding, yes, but I say, but what you're seeing is an energy vortex with photons of light bouncing off. But the energy doesn't stop at the edge of the object. The energy is radiating out. So I don't care how far you pull the objects apart from each other, the energies are connected. So in other words, wherever you are right now, imagine this, in that invisible space above your head right now, there are television waves, broadcast radio waves, cell phone waves, solar energy waves, electromagnetic fields from power sources, waves. I go, they're all in the energy above you. I say, separate them. You can't. The energy doesn't separate. I go, the parent looks like an individual human. I go, yeah, it is, but it's an energy field. The child looks like an individual. I go, yeah, it is, but it's an energy field. When the energy fields come together, it's the field that gives rise to the physical structure. There's a quote by Albert Einstein, simple, but like Albert Einstein stuff, simple but ultimate profound. And here's the quote. The field, which is the invisible stuff surrounding us, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Particle is matter. Quantum physics, the most validated science on this planet, acknowledges that the invisible energy is influencing the shape of the physical structures. So in a field of a family, a child in that field is not an independent element disconnected just because their skin stops here and the other person's skin is over there, because the energy is radiating out. We are energy, and therefore a family is an energy unit. If there's a negative energy in the family, adopted child, as I said, could be pulled into that family and get the cancer. Why? It wasn't in the genes, it was in the energy. Then the energy is what leads to behavior.
And it's interesting because they say if you get juvenile cancer, you're almost guaranteed to get adult cancer. So that's
yeah, you
programming
already started. You push the system to take your stem cells and create a situation that is not supporting you with these stem cells. And the stem cells, you need them your entire life. Over 100, you still need stem cells every day. So if you messed up the stem cells as a kid, you're probably creating an energy field where that will manifest again at some later time. It's an energy field that did that. It was the child being adopted into the energy field of the family that put on that child the expression of the cancer, not the genetics of the child.
So I just have to ask this. So if you go to an energy healer, is it actually what they're doing that's healing you, or is it your belief that they're going to heal you?
Both.
Okay.
You need at some level, it's very helpful to have the belief because an energy field can heal you without it, but with it, it facilitates the healing. Okay?
Wow, that's
so
really
you can be healed without any knowledge of an energy field at all. But when you understand the nature of the energy field, you can facilitate the healing from an energy field.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to think about.
Yeah, I've been, ever since they asked me to do the podcast with you, I haven't stopped reading and listening to you. I'm just so fascinated. This is really neat, and I feel like I just scratched the surface.
It's it is the future, and it's because I was just happened to be in the right place at the right time, working on stem cells long before even the world knew about stem cells, and so I was like, wow, I was like a pioneer in this thing to see something that my colleagues even didn't see because they weren't working with stem cells. And I started working with stem cells in 1967, and the stem cell story most people are familiar with is only the last 2 decades. Before that, there wasn't really much in stem cells in anybody's awareness.
Right.
So I was like 30 years ahead of the conventional population in regard to, tell me what about stem cells? And once you start looking at it, it's like it changes everything.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
We need answers because 1 in 2 people are getting cancer. We just keep getting sicker with all disease and heavier and more stressed out, and we're not figuring it out.
Right, because they still keep looking at the physical, organic nature. There must be genes and chemistry that cause cancer, and not focusing on the energy field produced by the nervous system, which, as Einstein said, is the sole governing agency of the particle, in this case, the cell.
So we've known these things.
Yeah, but now we have to put them into place. That's why so many conscious minds are, yeah, that's right. And I'm so smart about this epigenetics, but my life, I'm still sick. And I'm going, because you never translated that awareness into a new program in the subconscious.
Well, that really hit home for me because all I do is read. But I really haven't been able to change.
That doesn't put it in.
No.
Your conscious mind is super smart, and still your body is going, yeah, but I'm still operating from the old belief that I got a long time ago.
Well, I couldn't figure out why. I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I hope this information that we've talked about today has a very positive impact on people to give them the knowledge, the power, that they are the power, and not to wait for somebody else to heal them.
Right.
Recognize
very
they
empowering.
control this.
So everyone should go to your website, www.brucelipton.com, and you can go into resources
and find these new ways, these wonderful energy psychology ways to change those beliefs that I said you can see those beliefs by just reviewing your life.
Right.
And once you see them, then the modality of energy psychology could be used to say, this is the belief I'm having a problem with. And energy psychology says, okay, let's take that belief, turn it around into a positive expression and implant it into the subconscious. And then it will automatically resolve itself without you even putting any effort in.
Wonderful. And they can also, I guess people can get your books on your website, and there's more information in your books.
Yes, of course. It's so wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure and so enlightening.
Thank you, Deb. I'm so happy you asked all these questions so we can help everyone out there, give them a little bit more power. And as everyone gains power, the world will become healthier and happier and the heaven on earth that it should be.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.